May 5th on the Victory Channel.
This November, California voters could face a radical 5% wealth tax on billionaires, pushed by a powerful union that claims it's gathered over 1 million signatures. But a new report reveals this so-called one-time tax is a financial disaster, possibly. Proponents promise $100 billion, but experts at Stanford's Hoover Institution say after accounting for wealthy residents fleeing the state, California would actually lose around $25 billion. And joining us now is someone dedicated to promoting pro-taxpayer policies in the halls of government. He is the Vice President of Federal Affairs at the National Taxpayers Union, Thomas Aiello. Welcome to Victory News, sir.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Thomas, a Wall Street Journal op-ed last week warned that the California wealth tax has already seen $770 billion of wealth flee the state. Didn't many European countries abandon this very kind of tax because it hurt government revenues?
They did. So over the past few decades, about 14 European countries had these wealth taxes. Most of them repealed them because capital left. Capital left Europe for places like the United States and England, and including the Middle East. Now, what we know is capital goes to where it's treated best. What California wants to do here is in an experiment that's never been tried in the United States. They want to tax the top 1%, but as we're seeing, as you just pointed out, the top 1% continue to leave. They're taking their money, and most importantly, they're taking their tax revenue that would go to California and giving it to other states.
Mm-hmm. Now, give me a review of President Trump's working families tax cuts. How big an impact is it having on Americans and their pocketbooks?
I mean, it's huge. What we've seen from this latest tax filing season, refunds up about 11%. You're seeing more people taking home more money thanks to these locked in lower rates, a higher standard deduction, a higher child tax credit, and so many other things, right? We all know somebody who's a waitress or a waiter that's been able to deduct their tips. We know overtime workers able to deduct their overtime, and people on Social Security able to fully deduct that. This is great news for working class Americans. It's great news for the economy. And I really do think as more people continue to receive their refunds, they're going to take another look at President Trump's premier legislative achievement and grade it very favorably.
Now, you wrote a recent op-ed on the Railway Safety Act and how it will hammer consumers and do nothing for safety. Can you give us details on this?
You know, this is legislation that was created after the disaster in East Palestine, right? That's that train derailment that unfortunately could have been avoided. Now, in response to that, what we've seen is an overcorrection from the federal government. What they want to do is impose new stringent regulations that would really hurt the industry. These are rail shippers that move our groceries, our factory equipment, cars, and everything under the sun from places they're produced and ports to where they're needed. Now, we all want important safeguards to make sure railways are safe and there's fewer derailments, but we need to keep in mind that we need to balance regulation with costs. The rail system in the United States is one of the most safest in the world and continues to get safer by the day. More regulations would undermine all of that progress.
Now, you believe the federal tax code, I understand, is still too complicated. Tell us why, and if anyone in Congress is championing a simpler one.
Look, I think every American would agree filing our taxes is such a time-consuming, wasteful process, right? We're all spending so much time getting our taxes in order, all of our paperwork, and making sure we're filing our taxes correctly. There's nothing worse than having that hanging over your head that the IRS might audit you over a simple mistake. I think the best thing that the federal government can do is to simplify the tax code, get rid of these deductions and all of these other provisions that make the tax code so complicated. When you claw back all of those deductions, you can lower rates for everybody, and that makes the process so much simpler. Now, we need to balance this code with, of course, the spending side. We have a $39 trillion debt. We need to make sure we're balancing both sides of the ledger so America can pay its bills.
All right. And real quickly, tell us about the states that have no income tax and how they're growing while states with income tax are not.
I mean, it's just the success story of Republican states. Republicans believe that you should keep more of your hard-earned money. Places like California, New York, Illinois, they take their taxpayers for granted. That's why a taxpayer leaves California every 2 minutes and 37 seconds. A taxpayer leaves Illinois every 10 minutes. That's not by accident. These high taxes are pushing people away. It's not just retirees moving to Florida or Texas. It's businesses, business owners, and more people want to be treated better by the states that they're paying their taxes in.
Yep, makes sense. To find out more about Thomas Aiello and his work to defend the American taxpayer, just visit ntu.org or on X at NTU. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You bet. Fior.